It's sizzling meat and icy treats, and that's what the 4th of July and our forefathers, they believed in. More than 200 years ago, they sat around that Declaration of Independence and said, one day, this piece of parchment will represent meat and beer. And that's why we have on our next guests our good friends from Hot Rods Barbecue. They always come in and have amazing stuff and give us really great ideas for you guys on the grill or in the backyard or for your Super Bowl parties, or in this case, for your Independence Day parties. Our friends Anthony Sibona and Chris Wiesner from Hot Rods Barbecue, Real Pit BBQ, joining us here in studio. Guys, how you doing? Good morning, Anthony. How you doing, man?
DA, thanks for having us back again.
We appreciate it. It's always appreciated when you drop on by. Chris, how you doing, man?
I'm doing fantastic.
It's great to see you guys. You guys both got some color here. It's the middle of the summer, so we're feeling good. Tomorrow, the grills are out.
Absolutely.
Okay? Anthony, you are a wizard behind the grill. So when you look at a grill that any of our listeners will have in their backyard, what's a couple of tricks of the trade? What's some tips to go in there with your meats and get ready for tomorrow? Do you do something tonight to prepare?
Well, obviously, when you're dealing with especially larger cuts of meat or a chicken item, you definitely want to get those things in a marinade at least 12 hours before.
Okay.
It takes a long time for chicken to take on the flavor that you're looking for. If you're looking at a beef product or pork product, you may only need a 6-hour marinating time, so you could do that first thing in the morning. But it is key to get that stuff in overnight and keep it nice and cold, especially in this weather.
Yeah. Okay. So interesting. So is there a really good marinade that you would suggest? Maybe some people do a normal, you get a bottle of barbecue sauce from the neighborhood grocery store and you dump it in. But is there kind of a marinade that might be a little bit more unique that you could suggest to people?
I mean, there are so many available on the shelf now at the supermarket. It's incredible. My personal favorite is some of the Stubbs products. They make some great stuff. But you really want to stay away from stuff with a high sugar content, because when you're grilling, those sugars will burn a lot faster than something that has more of an oil base or a fruit base. But anything with high sugars like barbecue sauce, you have to be real careful with your marinating process.
Okay, interesting. If you do use a barbecue sauce with a high sugar content, what do you have to do for the marinade?
You want to go with something lighter. But when you're dealing with a barbecue sauce, mostly for finish work on your grill. So at the very last part of your cooking, you want to hit it with the barbecue sauce. But when you're looking at a marinade, sometimes an Italian dressing or some type of dressing or something with a little more oil base, it works great. Keeps the meat nice and moist and tender. You
guys do an amazing job at Hot Rods of mixing up the textures. This is something you've taught us before.
Oh, yeah.
You can do it with a lot of different things, maybe a little crock pot, then throw it on the grill, and then put it in the oven. You put it on the skillet, put it on the grill, a lot of different things. For tomorrow, if you're going to end up on the grill, how can you mix up textures?
Well, everybody thinks you're just going to cook hamburgers and hot dogs on the grill, but why don't you go after some bigger cuts of meat like a pork tenderloin, which I brought you today.
Yeah.
They're very inexpensive. It's something that you can cook ahead of time on your grill and then just finish it off or reheat it, which I did today for you guys. So a pork tenderloin is a little larger cut. Pork chops are another thing that you can work with, but first cooking it off on the grill and then finishing it like indirect heat just to reheat it gives you great texture.
That sounds awesome. Now, you brought in, as you said, this pork tenderloin, this smoked tenderloin. It smells outrageous. It looks outrageous. How'd you end up making this?
Well, we were invited to be part of a cookbook that featured beers. It was for a beer company.
Yeah.
So Chris went out there to our staff and our major chefs and said, come up with some great dishes for us that infuse this beer into it. And I'll have Chris explain to you what they worked on, because this is actually the two different perspectives of this meal have beer in it. One is the brine, and two is the coleslaw, which is really unique.
That is amazing. Hand that over to me so I can show this to the cameras. If you're watching at watchda.com with the simulcast, this thing is awesome, and it is heavy, and it is glazed, and it is delicious. Chris, all right, talk to me about this, man. You were telling me about the cookbook and the Unibrew, the cookbook, and you guys utilizing some of that. What is going on in here right now?
Yeah, last year I submitted to be in the cookbook for 2018. This is our 5th edition of it, and we were selected of the thousands and thousands of restaurants in North America.
Only 40 restaurants got in there,
40 restaurants in this cookbook, and we were we have the honor of being in it with them.
Yeah.
So I had this particular beer, the Unibrew Ephemera Apple.
Okay.
It's a white ale brewed with Granny Smith apple.
Okay.
A little bit tart, very light though, very easy to drink. Great summer beer for like the nasty heat we have today.
Yeah.
And we were already using that in our recipes since that was already on at the restaurant. Luckily, nobody else wanted to touch that beer. So
it sounds like a delicious beer. Why would nobody else want to use it?
It's not the easiest beer to cook with because it's got a specific flavor to it. And it doesn't go with everything.
Yeah.
Kevin Edwards, one of my great kitchen guys, he threw together this pork loin for me. He's like, hey, listen, I got something for you. Killer recipe.
Yeah.
This is what came of it.
Nice.
And this is what we submitted to the cookbook, and they were overwhelmed with it.
So you use this Granny Smith-based beer in the Tenderloin, in the coleslaw? Where do we use this here?
Yeah, the beer itself is in the brine that the meat sits for 72 hours in the brine and gets injected with the brine as well.
Oh.
And then the beer is also in the coleslaw mix, the slaw juice as we call it at the restaurant.
Cap, zoom in on this if you're watching at watchda.com because I want everybody to see this up close and personal. Mraz, how you feeling right now? Looks like your jaw just hit the desk.
I'm starving. I'm salivating. The oatmeal I had for breakfast is now no longer going to be enough, if you will.
Now, if you're looking at some beers tomorrow for around the grill, some of the meats we were talking about, Chris, what would you suggest to pair with some of the meats we were talking about?
Depending on what you're going with, if you're doing any type of chicken, something nice and light, a Pilsner, or depending my personal tastes are a little heavier than that.
Okay.
But even like a nice light session IPA, something from Southern Tier has a new beer out called New School. Very light, citrusy, 5.5%, very easy to drink. And it's not going to weigh you down when you're out in 90-degree weather.
Right.
Standing over a hot grill all day long.
Right.
You can still put back a few of those and not, still be able to operate.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Very cool. You need to be able to operate a little bit when you're on the grill back there. We got Anthony Sibona and Chris Wiesner in with us from Hot Rods Barbecue talking about your grilling tips and beer tips for tomorrow at the grill. Now, everybody loves barbecue, and a lot of our listeners have smokers as well. We're on across the country, so we got smokers in the Midwest and smokers in the South and smokers everywhere. You guys do amazing barbecue as well. You brought in some beef brisket, right, down here and used it on some sandwiches. So what do we got going on here?
Well, we serve a lot of brisket at our restaurant, and when you're doing sliced brisket, you usually get to the very end pieces, and they're just kind of scrap. We call it scrap. We chop up that scrap, mix it with minced peppers and onions, and make what we call our own rendition of manwich.
Nice.
So it's like a tomato-based barbecue.
Yeah.
Now, we also take that manwich, and we add it to our Pitmaster's mac and cheese, which I brought
beautiful.
for you today. We brought you the wings, we brought you ribs. So I said, let me make a little departure today and bring you some what we call barbecue infusions.
Oh, that sounds amazing. If we've got listeners that are smoking brisket for tomorrow or smoking anything for tomorrow, what's some tips for them going into the afternoon?
Well, I'd say the most important tip is use smoke like salt and pepper. You don't want to over smoke your meats. Usually about 2 to 3 hours of smoke is plenty. At that point, you want to wrap your meats, not over smoke them, because you can get a little off taste if it's too much. Make sure you're running a clean grill or pit for sure. Make sure you can scrape the tops of it. You don't want your meat touching a lot of carcinogens. It's a big difference.
Yeah.
And also what's really become popular is all natural charcoal. People are getting away from the chemical brands that use petroleum as a binder. So they're out there. Even briquettes now are being made with an all natural. And another thing is staying away from the lighter fluid.
Interesting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely. There's things they call them charcoal starters.
Yeah.
And it's like a metal tube, cylinder tube, maybe about 16 inches tall, and you fill your charcoal in that, and then you light it with either a torch or some paper. So you're not getting any chemical flavors inside your meat, because when you're cooking steaks or something like that, believe it or not, it could take over an hour for all that residuals from the lighter fluid to burn off.
That's interesting. Can you taste the difference when you have natural charcoal versus other charcoal or lighter fluid in there?
I believe so. Especially if you just get your standard briquettes, cheap brands, you're going to get a lot more of the petroleum stuff that you don't want. In barbecue, we use 100% all natural charcoal no matter what.
If you were just doing, let's just say regular hamburgers, you got some ground beef, you make the hamburgers, you put your salt and seasoning in there, and then you throw it on the grill. What's your ideal time for like a quarter pound or a third pound hamburger? How would you know when it's done right?
I usually use the finger test, which is you touch the meat, and if it feels really soft, like your finger's going to go through it, that's rare. Once it starts getting some firmness to it, you're looking at a medium. Obviously, if you have a thermometer, that's always the best way to go.
Right.
But I always go by touch. But I've been cooking on a grill for over 20 years now.
Yeah.
And also, really important to let your meats rest. Even a hamburger, when you take it off the grill, let it sit for 5 minutes, because if you bite right into it, that's when all the juices run. Same with a steak. So always let your meats rest just for a few minutes.
Let the meat rest, even if it's a hamburger tomorrow. That's very good to know. Also, do you cook it? You're a low and slow guy when it comes to barbecue. Do you cook your hamburgers, your hot dogs, your steaks in the grill, or your chicken at a lower heat, or do you go to the high flame?
Generally a high flame, but I have been experimenting cooking burgers on a pellet smoker. They have a lot of new brands out there that are pellet smokers, and they're really versatile. They can run temperatures from 250 degrees all the way up to 425. And I just last week cooked some hamburgers on my pellet smoker for the first time, and I was amazed at the results we had. Beautiful color, great smoky flavor. So if you're interested in purchasing a new smoker, pellet smokers are really getting popular.
That's a good tip.
And it's very versatile versus other smokers.
Yeah, that's a good tip. That's really good stuff. We're talking about grilling tomorrow and the beers tomorrow, and Chris, you're our beer guy here, so talk to us about the types of beer that you would pair with just regular hamburgers or hot dogs tomorrow or steaks in the grill. What would you think?
Especially with the way the weather's going to be, hopefully, fingers crossed, it's going to be hot and nice outside. You can really pair up almost any beer with barbecue meat. Beef, something dark and heavy, like a porter or a stout, goes a little better with ribs, if you're doing ribs, if you're doing brisket. With chicken, something lighter, a Pilsner, Session IPA, something along those lines, something that's not going to overpower the meat. The darker meat, like the ribs, for example, barbecue saucing them, obviously, so it's going to have a bigger flavor, so you need a bigger beer to stand up to that flavor.
Gotcha. Same thing with just kind of like barbecuing ribs or barbecuing smoked meats in a smoker. Kind of same idea there, what you were talking about?
Exactly.
So, I mean, tomorrow is such a good grilling day. What's the perfect time to start preparing your stuff? Let's say you want to eat around 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. What time are you getting ready with your meats in the morning?
Oh, 10 o'clock.
10 o'clock?
Yeah, 10 o'clock.
Maybe even some from the night before.
If I was dealing with a chicken item, I would be throwing that stuff in a marinate the night before.
Okay.
But generally, I like to get all my stuff lined up and prepared, making sure I got no cross-contamination. My things are all in separate containers and portioned out. So when I'm hitting that grill, I can spend as minimal amount of time next to the grill. I try to pre-cook what I can pre-cook and not lose my integrity of the product.
Yeah. And when do you put the beers on ice? Chris, this is a big deal. How do you put it on ice? Where do you put it on ice? Do you just do the fridge? Do you put it in a cooler, ice on top instead of on the bottom, right? How do you do this?
Yeah, with the lighter beers, they should be served a little colder.
Okay.
The Pilsners, the IPAs, you want them not ice cold, but you want them on the colder side. So ice them the night before or have them in the fridge the night before and then transfer them to the ice. A stout, porter, bigger, darker, heavier beers, you want to serve a little warmer, not 20, 30 degrees in the can or bottle like that. You want to serve those 40, 45 degrees. I know some people hate that. They think beer has to be ice cold to be the best.
Yeah.
But it's depends on the style of beer itself. A bigger, thicker beer, you get more flavor out of it as it starts to warm up.
There's a lot of countries in Europe that you have to drink your beer kind of room temperature, right? It's like warm
room
beer
temperature in Europe is referred to as cellar temperature. It's not necessarily like the room you're in where you're drinking the beer, but it's the room where the kegs or the casks are,
Gotcha.
which is normally in a basement in some, depending on where you are, the Czech Republic or Ireland, in England. A lot of those are 30, 40 feet down below the building.
Yeah.
It's an old cave or a very old basement,
Right.
where the temperature down there is 35, 40, 45 degrees.
Yeah.
There's no, it's a term I'm looking for, there's no, it's natural cooling.
Yeah.
There's no air conditioning systems in there.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. Because there's so many Americans that just love like the ice cold beer, but in a lot of places that's not really how they enjoy their beer.
Exactly.
Interesting. So we got the manwiches here. Now, Mraz, what do you think about the manwich sandwiches here with the smoked brisket in them?
I think they will be devoured within the next 90 seconds once we throw to Heller here.
90 seconds for these. Mraz might not make it out of the commercial break without having two thrown down his face. We got the pork tenderloins over here. They look amazing. We got the mac and cheese, the manwich mac and cheese. Hot Rod's Real Pit Barbecue. They got so much good stuff. Every time they come in here, it's just awesome. They've been around for nearly 20 years now, just absolutely crushing it. And if you're looking for them online, we tweeted out their Twitter handles. So you can check them out there. They've won tons of awards, the best meals, the best wings, the best ribs, the best chicken. They just have won it all, and they are just the best. They pair the meat with the craft beer. It's awesome. So you can learn a lot from Hot Rod's Real Pit Barbecue. Where can everybody find you guys online and social media?
We're at hotrodsbarbecue.com. We also have a Facebook page. Just put Hot Rods Barbecue New Jersey in, and you will find us. We will be at the New Jersey State Barbecue Competition next weekend.
Oh, very cool.
Which is the 13th through 15th down
Nice.
in Wildwood. And if anybody's down the shore, they're welcome to stop by. If they see our sign, say hello. Tell me you heard us on the DA show, and we'll show you our smoker and how the whole program works.
Very nice. Check it out. That is down in Wildwood, you said, next weekend.
Yep. This New Jersey State
Awesome.
Barbecue Championship.
Anthony Sibona, Chris Wiesner from Hot Rod's Real Pit Barbecue, absolutely crushing it.